Hello, and welcome back to Brentwood Stories. We have had a variety of outstanding guests so far for our Quarantine Conversation series, and today's guest is no exception. Claudia has been a patron of the Brentwood Library for several years, and today me and Peter get to catch up with her and see how she's been keeping busy during quarantine. We discuss her work at the UN, as well as what audiobooks she has been enjoying.
I'm Claudia Joseph, and I've been a member of the Brentwood Public Library for quite some time. I do miss the library. That was at my second home because I was studying for a couple of years, so that was my refuge. So I, kind of missed it. So I have been living in the community for a while, since 2010. And as I said, the library is very resourceful for me. I do work in the city. I work with the UN, but now I work from home. So that has been a real change in my work dynamics. And I'm on these Zoom calls a lot. So, they always say, "Oh, put on your camera, put on your camera. I want to see everybody's face." So that is why I'm so in the habit of using my camera, Yeah, I'm in accounting and finance. Yeah, and that's me. I like to read a lot, and especially now that with this pandemic, I do my reading has like I triple times the amount of reading that I do now because I really do a lot of audio books, and I'm doing one of the things that I'm doing since COVID and since this Black Lives Matter movements and the protesting and so on is do a little bit of research on history, on the background of the history of of this country. And as a matter of fact, right now I am reading Lies My Teacher Told Me, and I'm so fascinated, So yeah, I have increased my reading like a lot, basically, and that's it.
Are you getting your books electronically through the website?
Yes, I get a lot of my books from Brentwood. The ones that I don't get from Brentwood, I get through Hoopla. Is it Hoopla?
Yes.
Yes, and then worst case, I go to Audible. Yeah. I really wanted that Lies My Teacher Told Me because it was so fascinating. I actually bought that, so I have that for life.
How far along are you into the book?
I'm almost done. I think it was 24 hours. I think I'm on the last hour.
Anything particularly interesting that you found about the book? It seems like it's been a really good read so far.
Yeah, well, being from the Caribbean, I didn't really have a full appreciation of American history. And well, some of it I knew, like, the Columbus era and so on. But it's actually very insightful for me because I'm seeing it from a different perspective. A lot of things I didn't know from that perspective. So it's really, really educational for me.
So going back to the quarantine, all the way back in March when this initially started, did your work life change pretty much immediately for you?
Immediately from, I think, the second day of March, we were given the option to work from home because, as you know, the UN is kind of super cautious, right? So we were given the option to work from home, and by in another day or two, it became mandatory. So yeah, so we had to work from home. The advantages of working from home is that I've saved myself 4 hours per day because it's 2 hours commuting to the city and 2 hours back. So I've saved myself those 2 hours, those 4 hours. It's a big change actually because now I don't get to go to the gym anymore because the gym is closed. So I like structure. So I've actually structured my days. So in the mornings I wake up as usual 5:30, like if I'm going to work. I go to Hector Park because I find that Hector Park is really big and diverse, and you can practice your social distance because you really don't come in contact really. So I go to Hector in the morning and I walk for an hour, hour and a half, and then I come back home, take my shower, and then get ready for work at 9 o'clock. Yeah, and then I have to switch off from work at 6 o'clock. I don't have to, but I try to make it a routine to switch off because at first I felt I was working way up into the night, 9, 10 o'clock. I was still at work on the computer. So I had to make a concerted effort to kind of stop at 6 o'clock, unless it's something urgent. But outside of that, I try to close off at 6 and to have, family time.
great that you've been so organized during this time, because I know a lot of people, they've been saying how they've really lost that sense of even knowing what day it is and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Well,
did you think when the park was closed near the beginning of quarantine?
no, well, Heckscher Park wasn't closed, it was never closed. As a matter of fact, we had two parks, Heckscher Park and the reservation over in Deer Park.
Hmm.
So we were doing a lot over in Deer Park at first, and then we kind of switch it up to Heckscher Park. When I walk with my friends, we usually go to over by Deer Park. What is it? The Edgewood Reservation, something like that. And there are lots of pathways, not regular pathways, but that was very interesting and very nice. So we were kind of fascinated with that at first. But when I'm by myself, I go to Heckscher Park because it doesn't lend well to being alone and walking in that kind of situation. But I walk alone in Heckscher Park because you have a lot of walkers alone, and the place is big and vast, and you can switch it up.
You mentioned saving a lot of time because of not having to commute over to the city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another thing, it must be saving the money of the having to do the commute. Did you ever have to take the train in, or did you just drive?
Yeah, I had to. My monthly pass was $405 plus a subway. So I've saved that in one instance, but my electricity bill has gone up because I have to keep my AC on because this is so hot. Well, I try not to eat more, but you do eat more, and you do visit the refrigerator more, and you do visit the stores more, So overall, it's a saving. But yeah.
Isn't it the case? Because you feel like you feel like you're saving money in some aspects by not going out or not going to eat out, but you
No,
still
well,
find ways to
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah,
shift the resources.
yeah. Well, I try to save on the resources because I needed to save on the resources because in this uncertain climate you're not sure what is going to happen. So I try really to save on the resources. Although I'm not saying that I'm doing a perfectly good job because I do shop still, but I try not to shop online because when you shop online it's more impulsive. So I actually like to go to Macy's. So I'll go to Macy's and walk around and really get some of those good open store bargain, back to normal bargain.
What kind of work do you do at the UN? I never really expanded on that.
Yeah, by profession I'm an accountant. So when I was studying, I actually completed my CPA exams. And yeah, so I really do accounting work at the UN. I'm in operations. And a lot of my work can be done from home. Most of my job involved, the expenditure, the budgeting, the making sure that the allocations to country offices are operational and working and they have resources, that kind of a thing. So my work has actually increased because on top of what you normally have, on top of the work plan, some of the work plan had to be like adjusted for the situation. But this is from my experience, is that in the field, the COVID outbreak was not as bad as in the US, as in New York in particular, because they were able to still still carry on some of their programs, and some of the work that they were doing in the field. So you still had to support them with the finances, you still have to support them with everything else. One of the big hit was travel, where they couldn't travel. As a matter of fact, we had a consultant in Sudan, and he was due to come back home at the beginning of May, and we actually never got him back home until the 12th of July because there was just no flight to get him back, you know? So, yeah, so that is really my work at the UN.
Did you expect the quarantine to last as long as it did when it started in March?
No, no, we probably say a month or so. But now I'm telling you, I'm not expecting to go back to work to go back in office for the rest of the year.
They've told you that, not to expect it for the rest of the year?
No, they say they will not force anyone to come back in office, but they have a plan, a three-phase plan where persons who can walk to work can walk to work. Persons who like have one level of transportation to work, like just jump on the subway and get to work, that I think will be in phase two. And then they are thinking of the other phase where if you have more than one level, for example, me, that has to be on Long Island Railroad and then the subway. Well, nobody will be forced to come back in the office. So I'm not expecting to be back in the office until maybe next year.
Any connections that you reforged thanks to using online communication through Zoom? Have you met with any old family members that you haven't talked with in a while?
Well, no, because I'm always talking to my family members. We're always online.
Well, there you go.
But in terms of like Zoom meetings, yeah, we have, well, no, the meetings that I have, Zoom meetings that I have are usually meetings that I have in person. You know, I do have my professional club meetings. I usually have those in person too, but so now we have to have them by Zoom as well. So, one of the negatives though that I take from this quarantine is that after a while you're kind of zoomed out. You know, they're having these Zoom Friday evening after work get together, and you don't even want to be a part of it because you're on so many Zoom calls. You're just glad to be off, you know?
Yeah, I do agree with that. There's been a bit of a Zoom overload lately.
Yeah, yeah.
So as far as home life goes, one of the questions I always like to ask is, I know a lot of folks were used to going to eat out or preparing food outside their homes. So we've had a lot of folks transitioning over to home cooking, while some people, it's just business as usual and they've always been preparing food at home. Has anything changed as far as what you've been making at home food-wise?
Well, it's not, my change has not been a drastic change because I didn't eat out a lot apart from when I was at work. Right? I'll eat out for lunch, but like dining out and so on, no, I wasn't a big fan of dining out because being from the Caribbean, we like to cook our own food. So that hasn't changed much. But what I have to do though, in terms of my eating and my meal plan, is that I have to be more careful now in how I eat because I don't want to gain any weight. And thank God I haven't gained any, but I'm trying to lose, but I haven't lost any either. But the good thing is that I haven't gained. So I have to watch what I eat. I've cut out a lot of the carbs because I know that I'm not able to work it off, you know? So yeah, so I'm just more careful in what I eat.
And how's the family been?
The family's okay. Well, I live with my son. My son is an adult, so he goes to work. So I work from home. So in the mornings before he goes, he usually says, because I work in my desk is in my bedroom so he usually pop his head in and said, I'm just checking to see if you're working hard or hardly working, Yeah. So yeah, but I have a mom who is in a home in Port Jeff, and she's one of my major concerns. But thank God she's okay. We're able to visit now, but with a glass door in between. So I'm happy that she's doing well and we're able to communicate like that.
That's a relief to hear.
No, just from your perspective, how have you been coping with the COVID?
I feel like I've had a little bit of trouble getting used to the routine as well. And trying to separate work life from home life at the beginning was a bit of a challenge because that barrier is gone. So
yeah.
The other aspects, I think I deal with a little bit better than others. But even as a person that, maybe social interaction isn't at the top of my list, it gets lonely and it gets sad, and you get used to seeing some people day after day, and when they're out of your life, you start to notice and you feel that hole in there.
Yeah. For example, my friends at the gym, they're some of the ones that I miss the most because I'm seeing them, we're working out together 2, 3, times per week, and you don't have that challenge, And I although I walk in the mornings, I see some of them at the park, and I bought a DVD that I can work out with, but that don't really work. That don't work, right? Because after you do it once or twice and that's it. It's just like buying a piece of equipment and keep it at home. After a while, it just gather dust or just hangs a towel or something. So I have to be out to really work out, So I miss the interaction too with my friends and so on. And sometimes even when you talk on the phone, it's just not the same. It's not the same.
No, definitely not.
And one of the things that I had to get adjusted to was in terms of working on my computer. I mean, that's my life. That's where I work, the computer. But at work, I have two big screens that are is attached to my computer. So coming home with this little 14-inch screen, it was a real challenge. So I had to get myself a big screen. So I went to Walmart and I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna go for it. I bought myself a big 27-inch screen, curve. So it helps. It helps with the work. I'm telling you, it helps.
You're gonna, you see, this is the impulse buying thing again. I'm just gonna go on Amazon now and say, how have I been working this entire time without a 17-inch curved screen? And just it'll, Prime is back and working again, so it'll be here tomorrow, and it'll just be yet another impulse buy. And I'm gonna blame you for that one, just so you know.
No, don't blame me. No, if you don't, no, if you don't need it, don't buy it. But I needed it because I work with a lot of Excel spreadsheets and a lot of numbers. So the small screen really limits me.
Since we're recording this for the hopes of showing, or at least having folks listen to this sometime, maybe in the near future, maybe in the far future, and they dig up this old episode and they want to know about our lives right here, is there anything that you'd want to share with them about our experiences?
Yeah, with the COVID, it has changed. Yeah, it has changed the way you look at life. Um, you realize that some things that you used to do and think was so important wasn't that important, and you're forced to refocus on things that really makes a difference in your life. Yeah. For example, you think that, getting up every day and going to work and reaching work on time and so on, you realize that you have to rethink all of that. It's not about getting up. I mean, yeah, getting up and working, but it's really about getting the job done, irrespective of where you are and how you have to do it. So one of the things that, looking back, I'd probably want to be remembered for is is how it has changed my outlook on life. I know that it is important to be in touch with the persons that are important to you, to do the things that make you a better person. I mean, I don't mean that sounds generic, but what I mean is that to focus on the things that keep you alive, keep you going, and is important to you. For example, going to church, I miss going to church. Now I'm back at church, I have a better appreciation for church. And it's not the building, it's just about being together in one space with persons that think the same and have the same belief system that you have. So it's yeah, so that is what I would probably want to persons looking back to see how COVID had changed me and changed me for the better, and to really to kind of filter out things that are not that important, that usually occupies a lot of time or space in your life.
When we return to whatever the new definition of normal is, whenever that might happen,
Hmm.
is there anything on the top of your list that you're looking to do? You say, I can't wait to go out and do this.
I've never really given. I'm not. I'm thinking through, but I wasn't really actually there yet. I'm trying to see what I'm now in that definition stage. I'm trying to define what is it that I really want to accomplish when all this is over. Um, well, yeah. One of the main thing is to really focus on my career and really go out there and do what I need to do within like a 5 year span, because I really want to retire. I really want to retire early, and to really, yeah, to retire early so I can go out and live the life that I want to, the retirement life that I want to live, to travel, to go places, to meet people, and so on. Because most people, like, when they think of retiring and sitting back. So I'd want to focus on my career, meet my targets, and retire early.
Couldn't put it any better, honestly. Have you been enjoying a lot of the online programs at the library?
No, not really, because I have to work.
Oh my.
Yeah, so I'm doing a lot of the books though. I'm reading a lot. Doing a
That's
lot of
great.
reading.
Mhm.
Yeah. So one of the things that I say, now that I'm at home, I'm going to take the time to learn up about this movement and what has spurred, what has caused it, what has brought this on, and where is it coming from, because it's not new. but where was it and why did it? I mean, we know what sparked it, but why now? You know, things like that.
Yeah. What were your thoughts when it first happened, the movement?
Because I wasn't born here. I wasn't schooled here.
Mhm.
I had a lot of gaps. So one of the things so I was doing some research, online and so on. But at the same time, it's not everything online that you can, take as gospel. So some of these books that I've been reading, they have been really like opening up my mind, helping me to look at the broader picture and wider picture. And then, but this one that I'm reading now has really like made the biggest impact in terms of the history,
Yeah.
because a lot of things that I'm reading I didn't know.
So that makes you see things in a different light when they happen now, I guess.
Yeah, because when I came here 10 years ago, well, even back home, we're taught that, you can achieve anything that you want to achieve. You just have to go for it. And there were no barriers, so to speak,
Mhm.
as long as you could do it, you could fathom it and you have the support, then you can go for it. But now that I'm reading here, I realize that this wasn't always the case here. And so when I came here, I said, I have to do this. I have to achieve whatever I need to achieve, and I'm on my way. I'm trying and I'm doing it, and I've never ever felt that I couldn't do what I wanted to do. You
Mhm.
know, so because I've always said to myself, why is this a problem? I can understand why there's a problem with developing countries, right? I understand that dynamic. But when I come here, this is a first world country. Why do you have people with such low morale, people who think that, give up, like they actually give up on life? It's
Oh,
like I was expecting to find people bursting with energy, reaching for the moon, especially among African Americans. And I find that it just was not so. But now, with this movement, and I'm forced to look back at to see what is driving it and so on. And now I have a better understanding and appreciation. So when I speak now, I am better able to articulate a better position.
hmm. That's amazing. It's
Mhm.
always great when you have a book that you can read and learn something and enjoy the book, but it's even greater experience when you read a book and it completely changes the way you see things. You see things that you never thought of looking at in that way before.
Yeah. And as I said, that's not the only book I read. I even being an accountant, I'm always looking for financial opportunities. So I'm reading a lot of books. I even finished reading the other book last week. I will make you rich. I will teach you how to be rich. You know, I read all of those.
Wow.
Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, and Napoleon
Those,
Hill.
the Millionaire Next Door. So I'm like on a path because I want to retire within the next 5 years. So I'm looking at all angles. So throwing history in the mix was kind of a good, mix.
Very nice. And which of the financial books did you like the most?
Well, it's not that I don't know if I like any book the most, but what I find is that the readers, the authors, they have they're coming from different perspectives, right? Because the one that I just finished reading that says, I will teach you how to be rich. I will teach you to be rich. I understand that he's speaking from a perspective that you grow up, you're born here, you grow up here, you went to the school system, and then this is the methodical way to go. Yes, it affects everybody across the border, but like somebody like me in my 40s, I don't have 40 years to acquire what I need to acquire. I probably have another 10, 15 years max, right? So some of the things that he talks about and compounding and so on, I don't have 30 years to compound. I have about 12 years to compound what I'm compounding, right?
Mm.
So yeah, And there are others that say, as long as you're starting, it's okay. As long as you're doing something about it, it's okay. So is that I like anyone the best, but just that they come from different angles, different perspectives.
Depends on what your situation is for which the best one for you is. It might not even apply to certain people.
Exactly. Because the one that says, I will teach you how to be rich. I asked my son to read that book. My son is 25. So I said to him, I'm reading this book and I think it would be great for you. I think it would be great for him. I mean, it's a good book and there are a lot of things that I take from it, but I think it is more for him than for me.
Have you found one that you feel is directed towards you yet?
Let me see. I like well, I'd read the Rich Dad Poor Dad series some time ago, and but the one that I really like that I think speaks to me a lot is the Millionaire Next Door. That one, the Next Millionaire Next Door. That one speaks to me a lot.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, you should read. Well, basically what it is saying is that a lot of the things that we think we need, we really don't need. For example, you don't need to drive the latest vehicle. You don't need to buy the newest car if you can't afford it. It is better for you to say buy a 5-year-old car, pay for it fully, and then save what you would normally pay in your car payments. Things like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You don't have to live in Beverly Hills. You can live exactly where you are and be comfortable, and you probably use that money to go do what you want to do. Go travel the world, go, things like that.
A lot of the richest people, they don't live very extravagantly.
Yeah, exactly. So that is why they're saying that the person next door to you could be a millionaire, although they probably live in very frugal life.
Warren Buffett, who is the world's richest man, he was known to live quite frugally, in addition to a lot of money.
Yeah, that's true.
Warren Buffett. Let's see if either of you can guess it. What is Warren Buffett's favorite drink?
I don't know. Water?
I'm gonna go with tap water. Yeah.
Huh?
No, it's cherry Coke.
Oh, really? Cherry Coke. Okay.
Respectable choice. I'm more of a cherry ginger ale sort of guy.
I'm more of a Poland Spring girl.
Oh, that's good. That's healthy. I remember during the beginning of the quarantine, that was something that was really hard to get.
Oh, yeah.
Water and the paper towels and some of those things. Were there any of those items that you really stocked up on when it was first starting?
I stocked up a lot on water because I always had ample hand towel because I usually go to Costco and buy those big things. But I was reading an article on the psychology behind paper, toilet paper, that when we're in a crisis, we feel like we need to do something. We can't just sit and do nothing. So stockpiling toilet paper is one of the activity that add zero value to whatever you're stockpiling.
Really? So it's more about the action than it is about the value of the item.
Yeah, more about the action than the substance. Yeah.
And toilet paper was the item that had to suffer for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, but and what I wasn't in a panic mode because, as I said, I'm from Jamaica and we have lots of hurricane. Almost every year you have hurricane, so you have to stock up. And you know that as small as Jamaica is, within 3-4 days after the hurricane, things are back to normal. You might have a shortage for a little bit, but it comes back.
Have you heard from your relatives or friends in Jamaica about how this has hit? Have they been less affected by it because they're used to things like hurricanes?
No, they were not impacted that much by the panic buying, but they they had a good handle on the epidemic before us. And there were only about the last figure I heard in terms of deaths were 11. I mean, it could be somewhere under 20, but yeah, they didn't have a lot of cases. It was in the hundreds because I
Amazing.
think they closed the borders early and they mandated person to stay off the road. And in those smaller states, it's easier to manage. Like for example, in areas that had cases, they had curfew. You had to be off the road by X time, and you had no choice. It was just mandatory. It's not like how people here say, "Oh, I have rights and I have this and that." People just come off the road.
Hmm.
So it wasn't such a big problem. And even now, I have friends that are going down for like funerals and so on. And they tell me the process that they had to go through. They say when they were traveling in the States, they never had to go through all of that. They had to, once they came off the plane, they sanitized them down and they did a COVID test before they leave the airport. And within 2 days, they called them to give them the status. And they had to quarantine until they couldn't move until they got the result. Yeah. So I think they had a pretty good hold on it early. So it wasn't so bad.
And Jamaica, a lot of its economy is based on tourism, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That must have been difficult, that aspect, I would think, too.
Yeah, that they got hit with tourism. But one of the things that we have to understand is that tourism is one of their main products, but a lot of the tourism dollar, a lot of it doesn't trickle down to the economy. I mean, you know what I mean? It doesn't really trickle down. So I think the multinationals get a bigger hit than the actual, citizens.
Oh, I see.
But what got a hit too, they live a lot on remittances, right? So remittances from this state, from relatives and so on. So
Oh,
that went down too. But they didn't have a big shutdown like how we had a big shutdown here in New York. They shut down, but people are able to go to work, and just be off the road if you don't have to be on the road.
I realized working at the UN too, I was wondering if you had a feeling of your fellow workers there, of what their opinion was, because there's this, and you said that the UN closed fairly quickly, but there was this feeling that the UN and other organizations like that, they were they were advocating to close and be very cautious very early, whereas a lot of countries, like to a degree the United States and certain other countries, were actually arguing with the UN and saying, no, we want to keep things going like normal, get back to being open as soon as possible. Did any of your friends or anything have any opinions like, oh, that's terrible or something like that? I don't know.
No, people are happy to work from home. We're actually glad that we're working with the UN. We're kind of happy that that's our employer, in the
Yeah,
sense
but
that they
when
took
you
it
saw these other
serious.
countries that weren't like the UN, that they were trying to stay open and stuff, did you have any thoughts about that?
Um, well, no, not really. Most of my colleagues that I talk to, especially like I spoke to some of my colleagues in Africa and some that were in Italy. Italy
Oh,
was bad,
yeah, that was
really bad.
the first ones.
So they had no choice. We had offices in Geneva and in Brussels, and they had closed, but they were not as bad as us in New York. Eventually, they went back to work, went back into the office, and but in terms of forced to open, forced to go to work, I know, not from the office point of view, but maybe other field, maybe the local government in the areas probably didn't want to close on our entity. But in terms of the UN entities, they had sent out bulletin very early that, you know, um
Yeah. You said
yeah.
May 2nd or May 12th?
No, March.
Oh, March 4th.
March 2nd or 3rd was
Wow,
when they
that's
actually start talking about it, and I opted to go to work from home. But within 2 days, you didn't have a choice; you had to just stay home. And the UN also wanted to reduce office space for a long time.
Oh,
Because a lot of those buildings that they have down, apart from the building on the waterfront, quite a bit of them are rented. Because we have about 5 or 6 buildings that are rented, and they wanted to give up some of those office space because they wanted to spend less on rental and more in the field. So they have been toying with this idea of telecommuting for a long time. So the COVID has just given that a giant shove in the right direction.
Yeah, there's
So
a reckoning
yeah,
coming when it comes to office spaces and
yeah.
shared work
So
environments.
right. So now let's see what is possible from home.
Exactly.
I think a lot of places are really being pushed because even with our library, like some of the things that we've been doing, I feel like they're things that people would always be talking about as ideas, and now all of a sudden there's not really a
Yeah.
discussion. You just have to do them.
I have friends from my professional group, my accounting group, because I'm a member of the ACCA of the UK, the Chartered Accountants in the UK, and I have friends in Florida, and like one of my friends is a partner in an auditing firm, and he had to, they were kind of very rigid because they have to be at the client's office, to check the books and so on. But now he's saying that they had to rethink all of that, and now they operate on a more of a flex hours in order not to have everybody. They can't be so rigid. They were forced to adjust and adapt to the new situation.
You seem to really be enjoying the new situation, but I wonder if is your friend glad that he has to be flexible and to adjust?
No, he says that it's more work. It's more work because being an auditor, because they're from the other side, the auditing side. Being an auditor, you normally have to go and check the client's book and discern things and cross check and double check, and they now have more work. But what the point he was making is that normally we are so rigid when they're doing an audit, because sometimes you have to be at the client, you go to work like 9 o'clock, and when everybody leaves at 6, maybe the audit staff stay until 8, 9 o'clock just to finish the audit on time and so on and do what they have to do. And now they're saying that they can't do it like that anymore. So what they can do from home, they work from. He's now flexible with his staff to say, okay, I work from 9 to 12. 12 to 4 I'll be out of the office, and then I'll join back at 7 to. So he's more he's more adept to flexible hours. But it's actually more work for them, and more risk as well.
And the personality of an auditor, you would think, being basically someone who checks that everybody's following the rules, is sort of the opposite of everything just being very flexible.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So he says that was a big change for them. So that is something that they're working through.
So I think we're hitting about the. Yeah, I think so. We're at the 7 o'clock mark right now, and it has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you for your time, and I hope to meet with you again sometime soon.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
Well, it's been a pleasure.
Have a great evening.
You take care now, okay?
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Thank you again to Claudia for sitting down with me and Peter, and also thank you to everyone who has kept in touch with us during quarantine, and those who may have discovered the library during their time at home. And thank you as always to the Brentwood Historical Society for making the Brentwood Stories podcast possible. Today's music is once again brought to you by Dr. Turtle. Check out all of his free music over at freemusicarchive.org.